How's
Can,
it
can you,
going?
there you are. It's going
Here I am.
yourself.
Good. Nice to meet
Excellent.
you.
Nice to meet you too, sir. So is it Damien Lembi?
Damon Lembi.
Damon. Damon. Okay. I don't know
And
why I'm thinking.
how do we pronounce your how do you pronounce your last name?
Take a wild guess.
Favazara.
They're close enough. Favazza?
Favazza. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I was
Yes.
practicing it.
I was thinking of Born Identity for a second, and I don't know where I get Damien from. Maybe it's from that movie or something.
I get it
I don't
all
know.
the time, so
Yeah.
I get
You
it.
kind of look like him a little bit.
Matt
Just a,
Damon.
yeah, just a little bit.
Mm.
No, I'm not kissing your ass if that's what you're wondering.
um,
Oh my God, though. That you get that poster in the background.
the
Really?
Rocky poster. You like that?
Yes, I love it. I mean, that hits home to me right there.
Rocky 2. Well, that's Rocky 1, but Rocky 2 was the best.
I don't know. I really like when he goes against that Russian.
Drago.
Yes, Drago. Oh, and he just gets shredded and he's ready to just, he takes a pounding and I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, anyways, what comes to mind when you think about leadership? What's the first thing?
What comes to mind when I think about leadership? I think the first thing that comes to mind is that uh, leadership is about accountability,
Hmm.
and I think serving others.
Why is that?
Well, I also look at leadership as you know to be a leader, you don't have to manage a team of 5, 10, 1,000 people. I think it starts
Hmm.
with self leadership, right?
Okay.
So you start with yourself. You got to be accountable. You got to do the right thing. Have integrity, and then once you got the self leadership down, if you decide you want to go out and be a leader of a team, a sports coach or whatever, you
Hmm.
kind of go from there. And I think great leaders, put their team first and learn to serve them.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's really nice. Um, what, well, like, why do you believe that leaders should serve others? Why shouldn't they just put themselves first? I mean, wouldn't you want to do that? If you're, say you're a parent, you should put yourself first versus your children, because if you're not healthy, then how can you be there for them?
Well, with the parenting thing, it's kind of like the airplane, right? They say put your mask on first before you take care of your kids. So
Exactly.
um, I think the same thing kind of goes with leadership. You got to believe in yourself first, because if you don't, I think it's going to be hard to lead others. But at the end of the day, if you want to build a great team, you want to grow and evolve, it's only scalable, I think, if you have a great supporting cast, and a great supporting cast usually means hiring people who are smarter than you, better than you, who have diverse opinions, and give them the tools and invest in them so they can be successful, and make the
Yeah.
wins about them too.
So, what can we draw from this main distinction? Like, if we were to look at it through with reason,
Mhm.
the airplane, the parent, and whether leaders should serve others, but then again, he should be placing priority on himself first so he can serve those others. What do you think?
Well, I think that I think the best leaders in the world, whether it's in sports or business or whatever, they have that self confidence,
Hmm.
um, but they at the end of the day they know that they don't need to showboat. The people know that they're strong leaders, or whatever, and that they can be. And in some ways you want to lead from the front, correct? Right? I mean,
Yeah.
if things aren't going well or if it's uncertain times, leaders need to lead from the front. They need to be the ones who are like, hey, you know what? This is a challenge we have going on. We're going to make this work.
Hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, I think it's about making it about your team, giving them what they need to be successful and helping support them. And like I said a moment ago, if you get wins, give them the wins, right? Celebrate their victories. And if things don't go well, then the leader needs to kind of step up and say, hey, this is on me. At the end of the day, it's my business, it's my team. So, I'll take the accountability for that.
Okay. So if we're going to, I mean, we could go anywhere with what you just said, but I'll try to keep it in line. Like this is like an informal kind of interview. So I know
Got it.
it's got you a little tense. Like what the hell? Where's he going with this? Like, don't worry. Like it's just, we're just having a conversation.
I like
Like,
it. No. I mean, hey, I listen to some of your, I know how it works. So I'm not,
okay.
you could ask me anything.
Hell yes. I like it. But to give a little snap, I'm going to preface this with a snapshot about you, and then we'll continue on. So you're CEO of Learn It, helping and developing organizations and professionals over 30 years. Is that right?
Close. 28 years.
28. Okay. I like to round up.
That's fine. Sounds better.
And you're the author of the Learn It All Leader, Mindset, Traits, and Tools by Lion Crest Publishing. Yes?
Correct.
Okay. And that was released just last spring, right?
Yeah. April of 2023.
Okay. Cool. We'll definitely go into that later. So don't try to sneak in the book drop. Like, yeah, if you check out my book, you'll get the answer. No. We don't want that. We
I'm
don't
not like that.
Yes. There's got to be more substance than that.
I hope so.
So like this, being a leader, developing a leadership mentality, like, do you think it's developed by choice?
Well, I think it's developed by choice. I think it's sometimes developed through either osmosis or just through lived experiences. What do you think?
Lived experience is what I think. Right as you're asking me that, usually they go on a rant, so I take a sip of water. So that's like,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that. I like it. They'll give me some of what I give out. So I appreciate it. I believe it's through learned experiences. I mean, we all we all go through experiences in life. Some are more traumatic than others. Then we develop capabilities to protect ourselves. And as time progresses, these capabilities start to serve us in the process of our career path, that we decide, oh, this is what I want to do with my life. And all of a sudden you have the ability to inductively reason and forecast possibilities on how things could happen or couldn't happen. Now you know a lot about risk assessment, or you can sense tension in other people, and now you can look at conflict resolution. It can all be based in contextuals that you've developed in traits over time, can turn into a specific niche position or character trait that you just happen to develop that serves you in your position. What do you think about that? Hell yeah.
I agree. I think there's all different types of leadership styles, obviously, right? And
Mhm.
I'm a big reader, and I've read tons of books on leadership and biographies of great leaders. At the end of the day, I said, by learned experiences, because over my 20 plus years of being a leader at Learn It, it's evolved over time, and you try things out, and sometimes it works, sometimes it sucks, and you got to kind of learn from that. And really coming into it, I never had a job. I was a college baseball player, and I was lucky. I got to play for 3 Hall of Fame baseball coaches, and I kind of learned. I didn't realize it at the time, but I was kind of learning through osmosis of some of the things, a lot of the things that they did is what's helped me mold into being the leader I am today. So I learned from being in the moment on the flip side of having these fantastic coaches, as well as a dad who I thought was a great leader. And, you kind of go through trial and error over the years, and you do the best you can do, and you learn, and hopefully you're open to feedback. And if you're open to feedback, you can get better. And then like Greg, you said, you develop these traits. And for me, I think the traits for a great leader are humility, integrity, curiosity. I think curiosity is super important, and
Mhm.
also and also courage. Courage to make bold decisions or get out of your comfort zone, and because that's kind of like where the real growth takes place, right? If you're
Yeah.
not afraid to challenge the status quo and kind of push things forward and stick your neck out there, I think that those are that's important.
No, I like that. With so let's look into that with athletes' perspective on leadership and training. What kind of knowledge that you apply in assisting professionals in their growth in leadership, particularly?
So with as an athlete, I think you pick up these kind of key skills. You
Hmm.
learn about discipline, and you learn about communication, and how to collaborate with others and deal with resilience. Be resilient. In baseball, you get out 7 out of 10 times, you dust yourself off, you get up, you hit 300, you could be a millionaire. So
Hmm.
um, a lot of those translate over to the business world, and that's what's kind of cool with our job is we've got our team, and I get to lead our team. We got about 40-50 individuals, but we have all these clients throughout the country, and you get to kind of see behind the scenes, behind the curtain, as far as how their leadership works. Some's fantastic, some isn't, and you just kind of get to learn from there. And how we help our customers are, we have these different models around some of the leadership training that we do, whether it's listening models, feedback models, and we try to work with customers who believe in the value of investing in their team. Not everybody, Greg, believes that they should invest in their team, or they may say they do, but then they don't want to set aside the time or the financial requirements to be able to do that. So we want to work with these companies, help align training programs and coaching programs that can better suit them to help overcome whatever kind of challenges they have, or outcomes that they're setting themselves up for. They want to set themselves up for.
Okay. There's a lot of things to unpack there that I want to comment on. With like the athletic perspective, I want to go back to that. I was in the
Okay.
military. I feel like you are an athlete. You have to be. You have to
Mm-hmm.
be physically, but also mentally. But how do you train the mental capacity to work under pressure, to handle yourself under pressure? And this was something I was going to do in a solo show, but now I'm kind of just throwing it out there now.
Do it.
What I think it comes down to, there's an exercise or an application that I do when I go hiking. I'll go out into the woods of Babbler out in Missouri, and
Okay.
me and my dog will be out there. We'll go at night. We'll go when it's just pitch black, and I'll let my eyes adjust. Hopefully there's loom out. If not, then I usually have a red lens, and we'll just walk for hours. And then right as we're going back, I got my truck idling. I do the remote start, and it's right there. And I'm tired. I just
Mm-hmm.
walk right past my truck, and I keep walking. I do it for about 10 minutes. Then I come back. It's like I'm ready to get in my truck. I'm exhausted. I'm going to keep walking, just walk right past it again. Because there's a part of me that wants to quit when I can. It's right there. But I rather continue to walk so I can control the ability to to force myself to go further. And I feel like that ripples out into my daily behaviors, because I know when I'm at the computer and I'm grinding and I'm working, I can get lost with the amount of focus that I have, and just I look at it the next day. It's like, holy crap. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's a way of conditioning myself. Is that something that you might apply when we're looking at an athletic perspective?
So I think what you're saying is that you basically fully committed and you go all in, right? You just go for it and you do it,
Hmm.
Uh, and I think that for me, that was kind of my personality. With sports, I just was fully committed. I put all my eggs in that basket, and I always said I was just going to outwork the next guy, and a lot of times I did. And then when my sports career ended, it was tough because I only saw myself as an athlete. But I was able to, make that transition, and I've just kind of fully committed into, what I do here, with Learn It in helping our customers.
Mhm. Why did it end?
Well, I mean, that's a great question. So when I was out of high school, take a step back, I got drafted by the Atlanta Braves out of high school,
Oh,
and
wow.
dating myself here, 95.
Yeah.
And I had a tough decision. It's like, do I want to go the minor league route, or am I going to go? And I had a full scholarship to Pepperdine. I went the Pepperdine route because I really believed in the vision of what our coach had, right? He said, we're going to win the College World Series. And a lot of us are like, okay, we're a small D1 school. But, we bought into it. Unfortunately, I got hurt and I ended up leaving. I was a little, imposter syndrome too. I was away from home and I was a little, unsure of myself. But then,
Rotator cuff?
nah, I mean, it's a random incident. I literally lacerated my spleen in a collision. I mean,
Holy.
whoever sees that in a baseball game, right? Yeah. So
Wait, it happened in the game, or were you guys like getting hammered celebrating a game and you just like car accident or something?
Well, one of the guys on my team was getting hammered and fell off the roof at a frat party and broke his ankles, but that wasn't me. No, it was a game against I think it was actually preseason against Santa Barbara City College.
Mhm.
I was playing third base. We picked the guy off second base. You're supposed to step in front of the base to shorten the distance. The guy threw the ball, second baseman threw the ball to me, and the guy dove, the runner dove, and I think he dove more at me maybe than the base, and just kind of hit me. And I actually played the rest of the game, but then I felt real sick afterwards. Went to the hospital, and I didn't have a ruptured spleen, but I had a lacerated spleen, which put me out for the year. And I just felt really disconnected to the team after that. I mean, I was just, wasn't part of it anymore. So I just kind of packed up and left and went to healed up and went and played you couldn't go from a D1 school to a D1 school. So I went to a junior college, played for a great coach there. And then I was able to got drafted again, but really low by the Yankees. And then I got a full ride to Arizona State,
Mhm.
played there, hit a home run in the College World Series, which great. My wife's so tired of hearing that glory days story from 20 plus years ago. Excuse me. And
Yeah.
I'm ready, ready to take the next step. And I didn't get drafted again. And it was really hard. To answer your question, why? I would think it's just because maybe they thought that I hit my maximum potential. This is kind of before money balls. And
Mhm.
they thought maybe this guy's a good hitter, but maybe not good enough to play at the next level, which was really hard for me. I thought you always got to play until you just couldn't compete anymore.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to go the independence route. My dad wanted me to. I didn't want to do it. But I decided that at 22, 23, I just had to make a pivot. And I was really fortunate to come from a family who had several businesses. And one was this new training company. And I wanted
Mhm.
I didn't know if I had any skills. So I just started off as a receptionist, for
Let's
this.
go back. Let's go back because we can. Yeah, there's a lot there.
Okay.
So, one, just for my curiosity, why couldn't you go from one D1 to another D1? I believe it's like a level that you're at. That what's the deal
Well,
with that?
today you can, right? Division
Okay.
one, Division one. So today they have all this stuff out there. Like, I don't know if you follow it, like the transfer portal where kids can just get up and leave anytime they want. You don't like your coach, you go on a transfer portal. Next thing you know, you go from Alabama to Georgia or whatever. Back in
I
the
didn't know about that. That's cool.
Yeah. And the other thing that's pretty cool, I think, is the NIL, name, image, recognition, or whatever it is. That doesn't spell NIL, but that's where the players get paid now. Which I think college athletes deserve to be paid. They generate so much revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
But back in my day, in order to go from a Division I school to another Division I school, you had to finish up your AA degree or whatever kind of degree. So you had a stepping stone, so the rules have changed since, but yeah, so I couldn't go from one Division I school to the next. I had to do a stop off at a junior college.
Okay. And now, like, with looking back, with how the coach saw you as a lost cause and kind of just set you off to the side. I mean, what kind of, I mean, I know there's no such thing as bad leadership, but what was the issue there, and what could he have done to alleviate some of this struggle that you had to deal with from you sustaining that injury?
Well, you know, I don't want to sound like I'm a victim in this because I'm not.
No,
So
no.
I got out of high school. I was a high school All-American coming
Mm.
into this school, and it was more on me. I was with or without an injury. I just didn't believe in myself enough. And a great story is, because you get there, you go from being the stud, the best player in the county to, everybody is really good. And so my coach Andy Lopez, I remember our first sit down, part of the way through the fall season. Greg, he sat me down and he said, "Hey, look, we brought you in. Because we believe that you would be a starting third baseman your freshman year, great hitter, and a key point, key player on this team." And he's like, "Damon, you know what? I think we made a mistake. I don't think you're a good fit for Pepperdine, and I don't think you have the talent to play Division I baseball." And so,
Mm.
Greg, I was just like, "Oh my God, how do I
Yeah,
pack up and get out of here?"
it's
And
like
he,
your identity.
yeah. And he said, he just sat there and he said, "Well, what do you think?" And then before I had any time to say anything, you know what he said? He's like, "That's not what I think about you. I think that you have the tremendous ability and tremendous talent and can be a superstar on this team. But it doesn't matter what I think. This goes back into the mental thing. It's like it depends on what you think of yourself. Do you think you're good enough to be out here to do this? Because you're the one who needs to believe in yourself, kind of like we talked about earlier about putting yourself forward. It's like we can get you all the coaching, everything you need, but you need to understand that you deserve to be here. Get rid of your inner critic who's worried about whatever it is you're worried about as this 17, 18-year-old kid, and just get your ass on the field and play.
Yeah.
And I remember that conversation like it was yesterday. I mean, I ended up getting hurt and moving on, but by the time I got to Arizona State, I just kind of said, screw it, I'm going to give it 100% and believe I belong here. And I was able to turn it around. And even though it didn't work out for baseball, it's been a huge help for me the rest of my life of just kind of like, taking on, trying to tackle challenges.
So there's a point why I'm highlighting this. So
Mhm.
in the military, I've had leadership like that,
Mhm.
where they would focus on the golden child, the one that is all pure muscle that can just handle it all. I
Mhm.
mean, I wish I could say I was up there with everyone doing a 300 out of 300 PT score at the very front all the time. No, there's times when I was struggling my ass off, and they were all like, yes, there's favoritism. There's also professional favoritism. There's whatever way you want to look at it. They're going to, there's leadership out there that's going to be that surface kind of mentality, and say, yeah, you're the best of the best. I'm going to give you all my attention. But when everybody else is behind them trying to keep up, they don't get the special attention. Now, is that something that is internal that I should be understanding within myself that I'm not doing? Eventually, I just started working my ass off doing PT 3 times a day, got shredded, and it still was able to outperform those mouthfuckers with a cigarette in
Good,
my mouth. And
good.
that's how I set the
Yeah.
standard and gotten past everybody. Is, you know what? You're
Hey,
going to outrun them with a cigarette. That makes you look like a badass. Like,
yeah. For us back then, it was chewing tobacco and maybe not cigarettes, but both awful habits. Um,
mhm, yeah.
It's so interesting. We just finished up a 2-day a team event here, and I had this gentleman who you should have on your show, Robert Owens, ex-military guy. He's 72. He does pararescue and trains Navy SEALs. And he said something kind of similar to what you said, where he was never the strongest guy, the tallest guy, but you know
Mhm.
what? He kicked all their asses because he worked harder. You know, And he always believed, and I thought this was great what he said to our team, is that, you can, every one of us can do more than we give ourselves credit for, right? And it's just, but in order to do that, you gotta get out of your comfort zone, and you gotta really put in the work, So that sounds like what you did
Mhm.
in the military.
With
It's what I.
this work, putting in the work now, it's for some people it might be physical, but
Mhm.
for other people, the work could be internal, and
Well, I
that's
think it,
what could be holding us back.
but don't you think it all kind of starts off with the mental, the internal? I mean, this guy was talking about yesterday. He ran 7 marathons in 7 days in 7 continents. Sure, it's physical, but you got to challenge yourself mentally to be able to do that. In sports, we'd always refer to guys who had the $1 million body and the 10-cent head. You know what I mean, Greg? You go, and so in batting practice, you get these guys and they're hitting balls 500 feet. They're fielding ground balls clean, throwing rockets to first base. Then
Mhm.
the game starts, the crowd's ragging them. They get a slider in the dirt, they strike out, and they're done the rest of the day. It's all in their head. They can't compete. Some of the most successful baseball players who played long careers in the big leagues that I've been friends with or have known, they weren't the most talented. They were the most mentally tough and resilient. And I'm sure it was like that for you in the military.
Mhm. It was. No, and that's interesting. So with those types of individuals that like they met like after one mistake, then they have that emotional reaction that just causes them to just go they're screwed afterwards.
Yep.
Now, what can we relate that in a business like view as far as how maybe companies in a certain way with like how do they refine like with organizational development? I
Right.
had it and then I lost it because there's so many things running through my head.
Mhm.
But looking at it from a organizational leadership point of view, when we have those types of individuals within the workforce or in your charge, I should say, and they have those emotional responses when things don't go the right way, what do leaders should do? Like how do they approach that?
Well, I think you got to kind of be proactive and deal with that before it happens. I think you want to set up what I've always tried to do is set up an environment and a culture. And Greg, when people come in for interviews, when they get to meet with me, I'm like, if you come here and you're just on your railroad tracks and you're afraid to make mistakes, I don't want you here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I want you to try things. There's nothing you're gonna do that's gonna break, learn it. I mean, obviously, I want you to do things with integrity. Don't cut corners or do anything that will get anybody in trouble. But I want you to try things. I want you to make mistakes. And it's one thing to say that, but when the mistakes happen, good leadership, they don't get pissed. I mean, they have empathy and patience, right? And they're like, okay, hey, let's take a step back. What could we have done differently? What can we do next time? What can we learn from this? And I'm a big believer. It's fine to make mistakes, but you got to learn from those mistakes and don't make the same mistake all the time. That's when it's a problem. Like if you're not learning from what you did wrong. But I think that if you have individuals who, everything needs to be perfect or they're afraid to make mistakes, it's because you haven't created an environment for them where they feel comfortable or psychologically, what do they call it? Psychologically safe space to do it. Like,
Yes.
I'll give you a quick example. I got this kid on my not a kid anymore, probably 28, Michael on my media team. Michael's fantastic, super talented, but when he first started, we wouldn't produce anything until it was absolutely perfect, right? If there's anything, and it would take things way too long to get things done. We finally, after a couple of years, were able to get him out of his shell. I actually highlighted him yesterday, where it's like, let's get like the MVP, the minimal viable product out there and iterate on it, right? And
Mhm.
just learn to get better as time goes. And that's one of the things it's more of Michael did it himself than I did, but I kind of feel proud that I was been part of his growth, that he's been able to get over somewhat of a phobia that like things have to be perfect, because if they're not, people are going to laugh at me and it's going to be bad. It's kind of like, let's get it
Yeah.
out there and make things
That is
better.
me. That is me.
You know?
That was me for the longest time. And I used to edit like my shows in the beginning because I had this like catastrophic view of the world will end if it has its mistakes.
Right.
Now I'm purposely making mistakes to embrace this uncomfortability. Fuck, shit,
There you go.
like just whatever. I'm gonna leave that for the show.
Yeah, that's nice. I had I had I swear a lot, but I promised my 6-year-old daughter that I would say the F word less. But so I had dinner last night with a couple of our instructors, one of our new instructors, and I thought she brought up a good thing. She's kind of a perfectionist herself, but she said, she's like, I've learned that to for growth and to get out of your comfort zone, you got to be okay with things being messy sometimes.
Yes.
Being messy and just learning to, whether it's improv or just deal with it. And that, she said, that's one of her biggest learning lessons. She's a theater actress, and you don't have much room to improvise. You just have to do what you're supposed to be doing. But when she's teaching classes now, she used to get herself all worked up at the beginning, like, I have to get this perfect. But now she kind of goes into it knowing things could get a little messy, but that could be growth for herself and actually be good for her students too.
Yes, there we go. This is actionable advice people can take away and apply when they're trying to do a PowerPoint for a large meeting or doing a public appearance or a talk. This is great. Tell us about the trust tax.
Oh, the
What is that
trust tax.
about? Yeah, what is
Okay.
that?
So the trust tax is something I talk about in it's one of my things that are, I'm kind of, one of my favorite things for my book is, you know, we all go into relationships, right?
Yeah.
Professional, personal, and you could go one or two route. I think you could come into a relationship and you can be really skeptical of people, right? Like, oh,
Mhm.
this person's going to screw me over. This person's going to take advantage of me, or, let me micromanage this employee, see what goes on. Or you can go into relationships believing, Greg, that people have the best intentions, believing in people, right?
Mhm.
And I learned that from my dad, who was my idol. He passed away in 2010, but he had a huge heart, and he would give people opportunities like that, ex-convicts that he would give jobs to, or people who are Starbucks baristas who'd give him opportunities, a lot of opportunities that people wouldn't give these people, and he just believed in them. And yeah, every once in a while he got screwed over, he got taken advantage of. And
Mhm.
so, but he never stopped giving new people opportunities. People would be like, hey, Walt, this person effed you over. How is it that you still, maintain a good attitude? And to me, that's what the trust tax is, right? You go into these relationships, say out of 10 relationships, let's just say one person, does you wrong, right? Either on purpose, or sometimes they don't even know that they're doing you wrong. Well, that's just the tax you have to pay for believing in individuals, right?
Oh, okay.
Or going into, like hiring employees and just micromanaging them, right? I mean, that's, you're never going to get the full potential out of somebody if you're just looking over their shoulder all the time. I mean,
Mhm.
I think great leaders in that sense, hey, you set clear outcomes, clear goals, you're there to support them,
Mhm.
but then you got to trust and believe in your people to get things done.
Healthy autonomy. That's beautiful. Let's backwards track back. Let me say something real quick. You said something. What about with, I don't know if you heard of like people who've healed, was it healed people heal people, and abusive people abuse people?
Mhm.
But what about people that haven't experienced that type of abuse? I mean, are they just naive to the possibility of that? Like what, like, do you know where I'm going with that?
I think so.
Maybe, maybe.
I think so. I think look, I mean, I've, thank God I've been fortunate. I haven't had to deal with some of the pain and the abuse that that's out there. You know what I mean? So I could never put myself in in those people's shoes. I've had loss. I lost my dad, and there's other stuff, but um, I think we've all had our fair share of ups and downs, and it's just if I'm answering this correctly, to me, I think it's just what you make of it, and what and how you want to how you want to go about your perspective on other people. I mean, I guess let me just turn this one on you too, just so I'm clear. What do you think?
I mean, let's look at it. I mean, I grew up from a very Catholic family, and I've endured a lot of different kinds of traumas in my social upbringing, and I don't think it needs to be brought up. I brought it up plenty. If anybody wants to hear it, they can go back into episodes 70, 80, and 90. But for my understanding, what I've gone through, it brought awareness that I need to establish firmer boundaries and understand that there's permanent boundaries that are being mended not to my will but to will of others. And until I can address that, then I believe that was one factor that was causing me to have doubt in myself. And I feel like it's all connects to a healthy individual. So whether we attack just the boundary issue or the mentality of how a leader would, what makes a leader, what whether they're born into it or it's a learned position because of trauma, it all connects to make this individual who is out in front rather than behind.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm sorry for what you had to go through. It's obvious that you're a strong person, and you're very strong person. It's terrible. I mean, so I'm sorry about that. Um, and I think that the best you can do from any of this stuff is hopefully learn, right? Learn from it. So do your best. I mean, when I say go into relationships and believe in people and trust people,
Mhm.
but don't be friggin' naive. You know what I mean? You got to be smart enough to try to read signs. I mean,
Mhm.
I've had employees who, I felt like I took really good care of. I would send them for a week long. I had one guy to a week long conference for $2,500. 3 days later, he collects his commission check and then quits to go work for the people at that conference. And
Mhm.
so, but I'm still going to send my employees to a similar type of conference. I should have just looked at the red flags and seen what kind of, character that person had at the beginning, because I had questions about it beforehand. So I think you just gotta learn to try to avoid those types of situations. As for leaders, I don't think leaders are born, to be honest. I don't
Yes.
I don't. I think you can choose to evolve into it. I kind of say it's a little cheesy, but I like it. Leaders aren't born. They're not made either. They're in the making. I think that to become a great leader, it's an ever evolving growth process. You're never, I don't believe that you've ever hit your ceiling and you know everything. I think that you have to have that kind of that drive or that passion to want to continue to keep growing.
Interesting. So yeah, there's leaders and then there's perceived authority.
Mhm.
We could say that with rather than being born into it. But let's transition because I know you've probably been wanting to go into it a little bit. The Learn It All Leader Mindset Traits and Tools. Why'd you write it?
Well, I wrote it for three reasons. One is that I wanted to be able to share the unique experience that I've had becoming a leader through learning from these three Hall of Fame baseball coaches and my father. And Greg, and that one reason is because it's like, if I can do it, I think anybody can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing special about me. I didn't go to an Ivy League school and get an MBA, but so I want to give hope out there for individuals. Number two is I think I had a really unique perspective, like I mentioned earlier, being able to see behind the curtains of all these companies and be able to share back those experience, because not only do I want to help them, but my goals, I really like to help make, have impact, a positive impact for future leaders. And number three, which may even be most important, is my kids, my 6-year-old Lucy and my 2-year-old Walter, little Wally, named after my dad. They
Oh,
never
like
got
that.
to meet my father. And fortunately, my mom Linda, who's had a big contribution to learn it. But if anything, I want my book to be something where Wally and Lucy can learn a little bit more about my father's legacy. So those are the three reasons. I want to help others who maybe don't believe they can be great leaders. I want to share some of the stories of how we've impacted and helped with some practical tips and tools. And then for my kids.
That's beautiful. I really do like that. I'm a father of a 2-year-old, so I can definitely
Boy or
resonate with
girl?
boy. His name's Garamond Gregory Favazza. He's
Yeah.
yes, he's got huge quads just like his dad. He's
What's he into these days? Is he into Paw Patrol?
yeah, that and cars. You just
Uh,
give him anything with wheels, he'll be on the floor just moving it around, making noises, just
yeah,
pretending like there's
we
a
should get
city there.
Wally. Wally, I mean, every night Wally's like, "Tell me Paw Patrol story, Dad," and then he wants his cause. He wants his cause. The
Hmm.
best. Exhausting, but the best.
So I want to transition to one last thing to address, like with equipping leaders with the knowledge to overcome communication barriers. Like, what are some strategies that we can take away? Like for this interview, for instance, it can be very uncomfortable for people to have these kinds of conversations. I mean, we can develop anxiety. Like, how do we address anxiety when it's happening in the moment? And how do we alleviate from that to carry on and complete the mission?
So whether it's anxiety or imposter syndrome, one of the things that I learned along the way in dealing with imposter syndrome, let's take imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
Is like I've got like a 3-step approach. One, before you even get started, it's like you got to identify what you're afraid of, what's getting you anxious, right? But then once you do, let's say from a work perspective, let's say that I'm in a role where I have to give a lot of sales presentations, and I'm just uncomfortable with doing that. I'm not sure if I'm any good. So my
Mhm.
first thing is work hard, and I don't mean you have to work 10 or 14 hours a day, but put in consistent work towards that goal. Number two is focus. You got to focus your attention on what you're trying to. It's easy to procrastinate, right? It's easy to like do busy work.
Mhm.
Um, but if you put in deliberate practice and you work hard, then step number three really is when it's game time, when it's time to go in and do that presentation or do that speech or be on a podcast or whatever it is that concerns you, then it's step number three is like really learn and let go. And what I mean by that is, look, you've put in the work, you've focused. So, you've prepared. You go in, you do your presentation, your speech, your podcast, whatever it is. And if it goes well, fantastic. If it doesn't, don't beat yourself up too much over it. Learn from it and then keep moving forward. And I think that part of the problem, and this is, been with me, it's like, you put so much emphasis sometimes on what other people happen to think of you, right? Like what are these people going to say if I mess up? Well, people have their own lives, right? So a lot of times don't worry too much about what people have to say. Put in the effort, work hard, and then don't be so hard on yourself. Just give it your best shot. You're only human, and see what happens.
No, I like that. I mean, it covers the grounds of what we've addressed initially at the beginning of the show, but it also highlights the ability that you accept the outcome. I mean, if I fuck up, fantastic, because this is an opportunity of what to do better next time. And it's a learning experience. And I'm sure the people in the audience probably would do the exact same thing that I could be doing, maybe even worse. And they envy me for trying to do it in the first place.
That's the truth. The people. I always look at the people. I've got 8 sales reps. They're out making cold calls. They're getting hung up on. But I'll tell you what, the rest of the people who are in non-sales, they envy the people to have the courage that they can to be able to go out and make those calls. So it's don't beat yourself up too much. One thing I want to say, you talked about, clear communication and everything. I think one of the ways to improve communication starts with being curious and being a better listener. I think it's hard. People sometimes think they're better listeners than they are, but if you actually listen and you get curious to what people have to say, then it helps you as a leader, especially, create clearer direction, because you could better understand, you can be more empathetic to the team members that you're working with, if that makes sense.
Yes, go deeper. I mean, we all have different definitions of what better is, whether it's, I mean, take supplements to be better at my athletic performance, to outcompete the other students or whatever, but better. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, to be a better listener, what I mean is to be engaged in the conversations. A lot of times, somebody will be talking to you and you can tell that they are already formulating an opinion before you've had the chance to finish, right? So it's like being present and just kind of listening, and then when when somebody has something to say, it's don't be so firm on your stance all the time, right? There's that old saying, strong opinions held lightly, so be curious. I think great leaders aren't afraid to be humble or vulnerable, to be able to say, you know what, maybe I'm not right. Maybe there is a better way to do this,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and maybe 20 years ago that wasn't the cool thing to do. You had to have all the answers, but I think being vulnerable, it's a paradox. One, you got to have some self-confidence in yourself, but two, you got to be able to say, hey, you know what, maybe you're right. Like you said, let's dig a little deeper. How do we get better at this? How do we do this differently? Not being afraid to say, hey, I need help. What can you come in here, jump in here, and give me some feedback, and what we do to get better.
No, I definitely agree with you. I struggle with, I would say, having the social grace to illustrate the humility and my vulnerabilities. Sometimes I'm just blatantly just out there with it. I mean, like with conversations that I host, I'm just like, yeah, this is what's happening here right now. And they're like, what? What? You don't want my regurgitated, rehearsed answer that I've done on 20 other shows? Do you want me to
Right.
actually think logically right now while we're recording? Yes.
Yeah, it's good.
And then the silence.
It makes it fun. It makes it different,
Exactly. That's why they tune into your transformation station. What's going to happen next? So if I leave you with the floor, it's open. I
Yep.
think I said it backwards, but it's okay. You're all tense right now. You're making me tense right now.
I'm not tense.
You were tense earlier, and I was like picking it up. I'm like, because I have ADD or ADHD, one of the two,
Yeah.
and I am very empathic, and I can just feel the energy through the screen, and it's like, whoa. Because I meditated, I stretched, did my
Yeah.
yoga, my morning routine, and I was centered. And then I'm like, whoa, shit, I'm all over the place. I'm like locking in my left shoulder to just like hold this energy that's coming out of nowhere. And then you're over there moving around all crazy and shit, like you gotta take a piss. And it's like, holy cow. All right.
Yeah,
We're
and
good.
as I move around my chair. Yeah.
I like it. I like it. If you were to, if you have any words of wisdom, anything you want to share, the floor is yours.
So what I would say is what I said earlier. Don't be too hard on yourself. Stay open. Always get out of your comfort zone. Learn to grow. Make mistakes. Learn from those mistakes. Enjoy what you're doing. And also, you could learn from anybody you come in contact with. Everybody is more of an expert than you are at something. So, go out of your way, have conversations, and learn from everyone.
That's beautiful. Well, excellent. I appreciate you coming on the show today.
I appreciate you having me. Sorry I made you nervous with my intensity or whatever you're moving around.
Yeah. No. Oh, and one last thing. How can our audience get in touch with you and find your book if they would like to learn more?
Sure. The best way is to connect with me on LinkedIn at Damon Lembi. And my book, The Learn It All Leader, is on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, wherever you find books. And finally, if you're interested in a free class at Learn It, my website's learnit.com. Send me, tell me that you listen to this episode and send me a note on LinkedIn, and I'll send you a code to a free $250 class. Anything from emotional intelligence to time management to how to make pivot tables in Excel.
And I will caveat on that. I checked out the website and wow, like it covers a vast majority of things that you can take away. Like you only just scratch the paint of what is actually on the website. It's pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. It's like
Thanks,
a
Greg.
university kind of thing. It's nice.
Thanks, Greg.
Excellent. All right, you take care.
All right.
Perfect.
Thanks
You
for having me.
you got everything you needed?
Yeah. How about you?
Yes. Yeah. That was good. I will edit this up, let you know, and email it to you and go from there.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas.
Thank you, sir. You do the same.
Thanks, man. See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.